Hey everybody, welcome to Victoria 3. So, if you've been wondering where I've been in this little hiatus I've been taking, you're looking at it. This is where I've been. I've been playing like a madman on Victoria 3 and every spare opportunity I've got. So, this video today will not be the start of a playthrough of Victoria 3, but will be my takeaways as in my first. Let's see here, how many hours I have at time date of recording. 20 hours. I have 20 hours at time of recording. I've played 5 campaigns past the, I'd say 30-year mark at minimum, and 60-year mark for one of them. It's pretty generous. But I've played quite a bit of this game. Definitely not one of those half an hour review type of people on Steam. So this video, I generally want it to be 3 parts. One, I think this music might be a bit too loud, or at least it is for me. Hopefully on your guys' end, I've gotten it to a good place. But if it's but if it's too loud, there we go. It's down to a more lower pace. I do like the music in this game. That's one thing I really do like in this music. In this game is the music. I think it's beautiful. I think it's one of the better music tracks we've had. EU4 definitely still has to be my best. Best as in my most favorite. But what this video is going to be is the first part of it, what we'll get into here very, very shortly, is my first impressions and my immediate thoughts about the game. The second part is the pros, cons, and whether or not it's worth. And the third is looking forward on the game, not only in the future, but also on this channel. So, we'll get in immediately. For one, they've taken this very reminiscent of CK3. Same engine as CK3 as far as I'm aware. It looks graphically very similar. And I'm not mad about that. I think this game pulls off the graphic style and the engine a lot better, at least at surface level, than CK3 does. So for learning the game, I played Belgium. I played for about 30 years. I raised a GDP from about, I think it is 4 million. We'll check that once we get to the start. I raised a GDP from about 4 million to about 22 million. Or billion, or whatever. Yeah, billion. Billion, I think, pounds. Some people just call them ducats or pounds. I think it's pounds in this game. But yeah, quintupled the GDP, and a lot of that had to do is I joined the British market in a custom union. Very first game, I eventually decided to leave the customs union because I was pursuing great power status as Belgium, and the economy crashed. And at that point, I was kind of done with the Belgium campaign. I did a little bit of colonization, got my feet wet. I felt like I wouldn't immediately run a country into the ground. Next campaign, immediately played the United States. The reason for that is I felt with the United States, you have a big army, generally a lot of room for error because there's not many European great, strong regional powers around you to really smash down on you for simple mistakes, and I was kind of right about that. Didn't have much problems, sort of chugged along, and felt like I was just a bumbling buffoon with the economy. And so that campaign ended. I did conquer Mexico, got those provinces back, or states or territories or whatever you want to call them, back from Mexico. Never did Oregon. Then I played 2 campaigns as Great Queen. One was extremely short-lived. But the second one, I actually got great power status within the first, I think, 8 years of the game, because the British declared war on me and I fended off their naval invasions, and they never re-landed in me. It was extremely weird. But immediately after that happened, Russia declared war on me, and I grounded them. I couldn't push them, but they couldn't push me, and I don't care about losing men because I'm China. And eventually they succumbed to war exhaustion and had to recognize me as a great power. Then my last campaign, I went back to the USA, and it worked considerably better. I've watched some YouTube videos of people really expanding their GDP like crazy, and I'm still not getting there. I've watched other people. Some streamers have been having troubles with rebellions and revolutions. I've not had that problem. in any of my 5 campaigns, so I don't know if that's just something I'm doing by complete accident, or if they're doing something thinking it's good that's causing them to screw up. My first impressions of the game. One, I think the game is a beautiful groundwork to build up for. I know that's the stereotypical Paradox fanboy comment there, but generally, people on this game have 2 opinions among the community. Is one, either people are really liking the game, they think the game is really, really good, and they think that with a couple DLCs and some fine-tuning, we can be in a really good position. On the opposite hand, it's all the same thing, but negative. It's people think the game is in an okay position, but could have been better, and it's ridiculous that for a proper war, and for the AI to act even remotely correctly, we somehow need to wait for Paradox to shill us for a couple DLC. Yeah, that's pretty much the 2 consensuses of the community there. Mine is a bit different. I think where I'm kind of with it is I'm at the point where, let me get off of this title screen here, we'll hit back. I'll just do start game with anything, just because I want to get to the map, I want to see stuff. Staring at that menu is very boring. Very reminiscent of CK3 engine, to where this loads in incredibly quick, and as soon as you hit this and start, you're like, shoom, straight in. I think overall in the game, can we go back to not selecting anything? Oh, this will be fine then. We can play as Observer. Cool, so this works. I'll set the game running as we talk. Honestly, be fine. So, what do I think of the game so far? I think the game is great. I've been having a ton of fun with it, as you can see from the 20 hours I've played. But generally, I've not... 2 things. One, the AI is incredibly competent. I think the 3 biggest drawbacks that this game has going for it right now is, number 1, the AI is absolutely ridiculously bad. The United States never goes into its policies. Can I select a country here? Probably not. I'm sure there's a command console that I could pull up, but I'm not sure of that. But, well, this is probably a bad example then. Exit game. Don't save main menu. New game. We're gonna go economic dominance, United States, because I'm familiar with that. We'll just hop in, so I can show some things. So the very first thing is, I didn't know this immediately. If you go to Journal, Decisions, this is where a lot of hidden stuff is to do a lot of the stuff like negotiating the Alaskan Purchase, mapping the American Western Frontier, manifesting your destiny as USA, little things, Congo, source of the Nile, along with these other things that can pop down here. I did not know about this for the longest time. This Decisions tab was never explained in the tutorial. Very weird. That also happened to be, I was playing as Belgium, so maybe if I would have played as something like Sweden, for example, maybe then I would have been able to see those decisions to do some, Norway type deals, like decisions with Norway. Who knows? But yeah, that's the first big thing. The AI is really, really bad. The second thing, the economy, kind of weird. Generally, how the economy works, to my knowledge, is the higher this is, past 0%, means the goods are more expensive to base price. The further you go down, means it's cheaper to base price. How does this affect you, and what does this mean? If we go up to here to our money and hover over, well, first we're going to have to do this. This is just going to be an example. In Ohio, we're going to build So if this is another thing you have to be careful of, not enough qualifications to fully build this. So it's USA, not enough qualifications. Not enough qualifications. That might be because we haven't let the game run. So I'm just going to let the day tick over. No, still not enough qualifications. Bloody hell. So we're going to go urban, no, rural, because we need iron, and I'll show you that here in a second. We can expand. Not enough qualifications, unlike everything. It's ridiculous. We know there will be enough in New York, so we're just going to build one. So we have 19 here of this going, but if we hover over here, construction goods, we can see we're spending 6.67k on iron, 2.67k on wood, 1.66k on tools, 1.51k on fabrics. Where that's coming from, two things. First, construction sector. This is important. If you play as Japan, the Japanese shogunate or Great Queen, you start on wooden buildings. Everybody else, mainly mainstay European, great powers, start on iron frame buildings. Iron frame buildings take much more goods to produce and to build with, but building with this is more efficient, and your individual construction sites, these things right here, your sectors, give you 5 construction instead of 2. So 2 construction sectors using iron frame building techniques gives you the output of 5 wooden frame production methods, or wooden building production methods. Now, I don't know, because I've not done the math, but you can see here, building with iron frames take clerks, mechanics, laborers, slave, bureaucrats. Wooden frames are with laborers or slaves. So playing as Great Queen, almost every time I've played as them, I've immediately upgraded to iron frame buildings. I have no idea if the meta for something as big as China, or really any underdeveloped country, or even for America, if moving back to this and spamming out a shitload of construction sectors, or what the meta for this is. But where the expense part comes from is in your market. We can go here, tools. Tools are 20% more expensive than default. Paper is 20% more expensive than default. We can find iron is flat, but that's mainly because of this number here. Buy orders, sell orders. Here, we have buy orders. So we're America, so we start with the slavery institution. 34.7% of our groceries are being used for slaves, and 556 are being used for our population. We are producing 357 from our food industries, leading to a 50% increase overall for our groceries, which is really bad. We are the number 2 producer worldwide, so we're getting some prestige, but that's another thing for another topic for another time. So, groceries, how does this work? So, the balance is negative. So what we need to do is, instead of building this iron mine, is we need to go to urban and food industries. If we click this, it expands it down. So, I've heard nobody else talk about this other than Ludi Day Historian. He stated in his most recent video, that, in his Shogunate video, that building more of one tile, basically, if you want to think of that like EU4's sense, but more of like in one sector. So having 10 development of a food industry in one state, I guess, are they all states or counties? I guess it's all different. County, state. Yeah, so I guess in one state or county or whatever is vastly more efficient than having 10 spread out. So ideally you want to concentrate all of them into one place. So what we should be doing is, even though we don't have enough qualifications here, we can see here Kentucky, 2 million GDP, South Carolina, is a bit less than Kentucky. Kentucky has more population, so they're ideally going to get more of the people we need in here. They also have, I think, a bit better of infrastructure, so we don't have to worry about that as soon as possible. So I'm just going to bump up the Kentucky food industry by 6 to get it to 10. Now, we don't have the technologies at all to increase the efficiency of the Kentucky food industries, but over time, these building up here, these use construction goods, which are spent here. Lowering this of those construction tools, the lower price of the construction tools generally will actually lower the construction goods. Same for in government wages. These are just flat wages, but goods for government buildings, building more clippers and more papers will lower the price here, meaning your government institution buys them for cheaper, thus leading to less expenses. Generally, from what I've seen in this game, building non-stop is completely and wholly unsustainable. I have tried that in all 5 of my campaigns, as 2 in Queen, 1 in Belgium, and 1 in the United States of America, or 2 in the United States of America. What should be, and what is in real life, the 2 biggest GDP and economic powerhouses in the world. Unless I am doing something fundamentally wrong, I have found it impossible to keep up with the exponential curve of continually building, getting money back from a positive balance, reinvesting into the construction sector, and building more faster than the curve. It's a death spiral. The next playthrough I'm going to go through will be only building to keep all of these down and to keep people happy. That's the next topic I want to bring up. Radicals and loyalists. So I'm just going to let the game run for a little bit as we do this. There we go, we already got some radicals. For research, for purposes, we don't need any of this. Production, we're just going to go for the Bessemer process. We can see here input good shortages. So this, you can sort of get this already. So if we look at here, like most people, you'll see this pop up, American goods shortage. Okay, there's 9 buildings affected by this. Well, that's bad. My construction sectors, my arms industries, my chem plant, my steel mill, that's not good. So how do I fix this? How does the game tell me I fix this? You can resolve the shortage by increasing the number of sell orders for iron in American market. This can be done by either producing more iron, improving infrastructure in states with low market access, producing it, or setting up a trade route to get it from another market. So we can produce more, improve the infrastructure in states with low market access. We can see here we don't have low market access anywhere, so that's not an option for us. So we can produce more, or set up a trade route to get it from another market. Pretty simple. So how do we set up a trade route? The simplest way is we just quickly go to production lens, not trade actions, but either import or export. Importing, establish a semi-permanent trade route between 2 markets, importing goods to a market you own or control, and this is export. So this is basically what we're trying to send out and what we're trying to bring in. So we're trying to bring in iron. We can see here productivity from the British market. The reason this is so high, it will not stay high. This is very temporary. So this is the predicted tax revenue after the tariffs. So this is the predicted trade revenue, and then they're being tariffed by the British. So trade revenue is calculated by taking the average sale price of 52.6 in the importing market, which is us, and subtracting the average purchase price in this case, the British market. So right now, this is extremely productive. But as we buy this, and we expand our iron mines later, and this iron price falls, what will happen is that trade route will become ever so less efficient. So another thing we can do is we can come down here, steel. We have a ton of steel. So if we go to export steel, we can see here we can actually get rid of steel for a decent amount of money. Boom. So the reason our money went down there is because we went over our bureaucracy limit. The one thing the United States struggles with a lot, I found, is bureaucracy and authority. That comes from being a democracy. You don't have a lot of authority. Kind of sucks. One quick way you can fix that is you just come in here, or really anywhere you have high population. The better the population, the better. So generally in the United States, I always stack it on New York. Government administration, just build a couple more of those, and just pop one to the front of the queue immediately. And we can just let this start ticking. So we can see here the guns factory is actually losing money due to the fact that it's missing iron. And then we can see here we're not getting enough cannons and enough guns from them to make a balance because their expenses are too high, because they're not making enough money off of selling the guns, because their efficiency is too low because of the lack of iron. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to go to import iron, and we're just going to import all the iron. And you can see there, it eventually reversed course. We actually started to gain money. Even though we're losing money on tax waste, getting this iron not only is making our construction goods cheaper, it's also fixing and now allowing, hopefully we can see here in action maybe, yeah. So now the efficiency is being restored, and our our arms industry is now recovering. It has the materials it needs to make the weapons it needs to stay sustainable. So here we have some events, Indian removal, and we'll do that. We like the industrialist, at least I have in my commonplace. If you're playing as America, another thing you need to do immediately is establish colony in Oklahoma. It's not started, so you want to do that as fast as possible because you want to get as much of this territory, because the Mexicans are settling on that side too. Another thing you want to do is immediately start improving with Texas. I've seen in the past some people in pre-review copies, some of the people who got sponsored by Paradox, them losing, like Texas loses. Since I've played the game, I've never seen them lose, and we can see here in diplomacy, they're already out of the war with Mexico. The reason you want high relations, if we go to journal, actual journal, Texan statehood, if they get to 20 relations with us, we're going to annex them for free. Not a lot in Texas at the moment, but quite literally it's free clay with no infamy. Gets us closer to Mexico, denies them a potential expansion route into Texas, and eventually, of course, there's good Texan oil there. So we can see our money goes up. Say we want more money. Right now we're doing more money. An easy way to increase money is by lowering wages. With professional armies, lowering military wages is more effective. But the United States, you have an extremely small amount of regulars. You have a large amount of conscripts. So what's the difference? For people who haven't played Vicky, I'll just shortly give you a recap. Basically, if you want to think about it this way, in EU4 terms, if you played that game before, your regulars are the men you've had for a while, and you've had your 3-star general training on them for quite a bit, and they have max drill. Your conscripts are the guys you've emergency, oh shit, I just got stack wiped, and you've mass recruited 100k troops to flood the front line. So we can actually see the actual difference here. Regulars are composed of line infantry, this mobile artillery, and we can see their stats here, 45, 50 with 100k manpower. I can't actually mobilize any of these conscripts, but maybe you can see some in garrison. No, we cannot. But basically, our conscripts are going to be like line infantry with like maybe not even cannon artillery, maybe just infantry focus. They're going to be a dulled down, reduced stat version of our regulars. So the advantage of conscripts is we get a crap ton of them, so if we're fighting on a lot of fronts, they're good. But regulars are generally better for having a professional mainstay army. So a big thing We're gaining a lot of loyalists right now, but that will not be the case for long. The big reason you gain radicals is this up here. Either being enslaved, being discriminated, and reduced standards of living. So for a lot of countries, discrimination is not going to be a big thing. Enslaved is not going to be a big thing if you're playing as, really any of the other European or mainstay big powers. It's just a problem in the United States. The thing you will have to deal with is decreased standards of living. Yeah, so I'll be entirely frank with you. The standard of living is right here. So right now, the lower strata, middle strata, and upper strata, the middle strata is 23.6, but they only expect 15, which means it's way above what they should expect. Same with the lower strata, and especially with the upper strata. But even though they are above the minimum expected, if this goes down, they still become radical. This average standard of living, I'm going to be entirely honest with you, I have absolutely zero idea confidently to tell you right now what affects that. And that is a big problem with this game. There are a lot of numbers in this game that I'm taking wildly educated guesses at, and other people are too. So for example, Ludi de Astoria mentioned, I think in his video, that the high price of things like consumer goods that people need, like groceries, would lead to a lower standard of living and lots of radicals. So you want food to be as cheap as possible, things like grain to be as cheap as possible, things like clothes to be as cheap as possible, things like basic furniture to be as cheap as possible, lumber, so that way people can have it in their homes, but mainly like basic furniture, clothes to wear, food. Those are like the big things. And the cheaper that is, the less radicals you're going to get, and the better the standard of living. That's my complete guess. I have no idea. I genuinely don't. And that's kind of why I'm excited to continue playing this game, because it's mysterious, and I'm trying to figure it out. I'm going to quickly look over. I forgot to check this before the game started. So,
One of the great.
I watched a little bit of the Bo Cohen game that they did. It looks like, unless he mentioned it during his active Twitch stream, yeah, it says mods none vanilla, but I know there was big talks about in the stream they were constantly referencing something that College, I think, had made of a mod that basically was a performance mod that stopped the game from shitting itself. That's another big problem, is late game, even on single player, when your economy gets really, really big, the game struggles to run at all. The game just can't handle it. This is post-release, actual version of the game, not some like pre-press release that was developed like 2 months before they actually handed it out to whoever was reviewing. The actual release game physically struggles to run well on even 4-speed pre-19th century, which is bad, because this game does go to 1936. So that's extremely bad, seeing as how I can't even approach literally the last half of the game without struggling. I have a 3080, or a 3070 Ti. I have 32 gigabytes of RAM. I have an i7 core processor. This is not a computer that should struggle to run this game. Quickly before I tab off of here on Steam, before I go to check something else, one thing I'm debating playing with in my first campaign that I probably post here on YouTube of Victoria 3 is Anbield's revision of AI. It's Anbield is Anbeeld. It's Anbield's revision of AI. Apparently, All it does is it heavily improves economy development of AI countries, and it's a fully customized script for AI construction, with the vanilla algorithm being suppressed. So that's one thing I want to look into. There's also another thing called improved automation on the workshop as well that I would like to check out, but also I feel like it's a lazy way to get out of the problem. And seeing as how a human programmed that automation, I still feel like at the end of the day, there might be meta losses there. There might be mistakes that are not being seen, so I don't entirely want to just trust that. But if I head to the Victoria 3 store page here, and I scroll down where they will list, yeah, system requirements. I have 32 gigabytes of RAM, and we'll go off their recommended, not even their minimum, their actual recommended. I have an i7 core processor. It's a 9700K. They recommend an i5 6600K. So I have way better than that. I have double the RAM. I have a 3070. They want a 1660. And they want 10 gigabytes available. Well, currently this game is running on a integrated hard drive with 2 terabytes available. So, yeah, there should be absolutely no... All the performance issues for this game is code on their end. Am I surprised? No. All Paradox games chug when they get to late game. But not like this. EU4 gets stuttery when you get too many units on the board and you're all microing. But at peacetime, when people chill the hell out, or you don't have an HRE blob vassal, the game runs relatively fine. Even to the early 1700s, even late 1700s on my end. Hoi 4. Until you decide to nuke the entire Russian line, the game runs fine. Especially with mods. And with a lot of mods, the only problem is the multiplayer. So with all of this negative, I want to quickly reverse that opinion a little bit and talk about some of the positive. The multiplayer. I have high hopes for the Victoria 3 multiplayer. One big reason. I have crashed 4 times in my single-player campaigns. Which, you may have been wondering, why is it a good thing that you were crashing 4 times in your single-player campaign post-launch? The reason that's good is because all of the YouTubers who are playing multiplayer games or single-player games were playing them on the pre-release copy. And a lot of the multiplayer people, like Bokoan, I think, have played this game post-launch with the actual post-launch copy. And they were still crashing. The reason that I'm crashing is good. It gives me hope to think that it's not desyncs like that have plagued every Paradox multiplayer ever. That's the problem, they're crashing. It's just, there's one, like I think I can get it, well, I can't get it to go because I'm the United States, but maybe if I click Britain, or somebody with an air. There's a big-ass glitch right now that if you have an air in your country, you can see like a portrait of them, basically down here. If you click that, as far as I know, you crash. I can't confirm if that's a thing at the moment, but I know in the Bokoan games they confirmed that that was a thing, that they were crashing due to clicking airs. Yeah. So what I'm hoping is that it's simple, stupid things like that that's causing people to crash, and not the greater code as a whole. And once, you know, they get those patched out, we can continue. Because, of course, you know, at the end of the day, a game as complicated as something like this, it's going to have a rocky release. Because, quite frankly put, there's so many things to do in so many different ways for you to build it with your economy and where you're doing it and what order, that even if you got 100 people together and you forced them at gunpoint to play 500 hours of this game in like a locked closet, and you like siphoned all of their data of what they were doing exactly when for 500 hours of those 10 people, literally on launch day, this game had probably, you know, 10 1,000 times amount of the eyes and the inputs and everything as that experiment would have gotten Paradox. So, of the people saying that, oh, it's just another buggy launch, well, look at any AAA release nowadays, and they can't get first-person shooters right. Let's at least give, a system as advanced as this in economy and world building and background engine a little bit of a break. So that was the first thing I wanted to cover, my initial thoughts, and also the second thing, my the community's initial thoughts, and I wanted to cover my initial thoughts and is my perceptions about the game, then my initial thoughts, and that was basically it. I think it's a unpolished gem at this point, is I guess the term I'd use to describe it. The third thing, where do I think I go for this game and the channel as a whole? I think those 2 mods I mentioned are a good place to start. Not so much the automation mod, but mainly using the automation mod and letting it go on a country like America, hitting this 5-speed, scrolling out to here, pulling up this menu, and kicking back and taking a drink, right? Popping open a cold one, and letting see what this does with this, and how it runs the game, and does it crash the economy? Does it not crash the economy? How does everybody else's economies work? And yeah, and it would be interesting to see on the AI person's Alvids or whatever, their AI production manifest, it said that things that only affected my economy, i.e. the better production manager, which you can see here in journal decisions and enable auto build. Now, as far as I'm concerned, in vanilla, clicking this button is suicide. Please don't. Your worst blind mistakes will almost certainly be better than whatever the hell the AI is doing. I have no idea what I'm doing, right? On my first playthrough of Belgium, completely memeing, I hit great power as Belgium. I didn't build a single man. I didn't build a single ship. I colonized 4 places down here, and even then, I did these wrong. And I built up to 20 to 25 million, I was right, yeah, million GDP in Belgium, and was great power. So whatever your blind scramble for whatever you're trying to do, I guarantee you that's better than whatever the hell the AI is doing. So that's, I guess, for the channel. I want to do that. I want to test out, generally. I think I'm going to have probably that video out before long. But, yeah, how those compare. How those 2 mods stack up. And what I can learn from what they're doing with that, and what that's building, and also observing and seeing how the better AI, see if it actually does make their GDP go up and not tank their economies, and see what happens. But for now, I think that's all. I know I talked about some stuff in here, and the different tabs and what they do, but generally, I'll be quite frank with you, I can't justify making a tutorial at the moment on this stuff. I'm not going to be a lot like the other YouTubers who have already made ultimate beginner tutorial for, Victoria 3, and quite frankly, they don't know what they're doing. I've watched their quote-unquote beginner tutorial, and the only beginner there is them. I don't mean to throw shade, but they're not interacting with half the interactions right, they don't know what they're doing with the economy, and they're consistently running the country into the ground. The only, I guess, quasi-quick tip I can give you before I go here is if you're really struggling with cash, the best way is you go to consumption taxes if you have spare authority, and you tax something that people don't necessarily need. So something like tobacco is a really good choice. Something like, I don't know, wine. You don't want to tax stuff like services. You don't want to tax people's clothes or furniture. That's literally what the American Revolutionary War was fought over. You tax the rich. You tax luxury clothes. You tax maybe some coffee. but these aren't really worth it. Another thing you can do is in here, in market, and in trade routes. You can see here we're exporting fabric. There's not a lot of trade routes set up. But if you notice, here, we're importing 577 furniture. So we can see here, we can tariff the imports of the furniture on ourselves. So we can see here, France is sending furniture to us because we need furniture. And so we can tariff that. Now, what that'll eventually do is France will probably stop sending this to us. So if we really want, we could actually turn it the other way to incentivize other people to send it our way. So one thing we're going to do is American routes. I've not tried this before, but we're going to tariff the exports. What this does is this removes the 10% import tax that they're paying to send their iron to the United States. So what this does is hopefully this will incentivize more people to send more iron that we need in our economy to the US of A. I've not tried that. I will try that. Another quick tip beyond these little things is, one, immediately on this screen, without fooling around with all of this, I need luxury clothes. Click on it, boom, import, boom, British, done. More are coming in. Quick fix. The next biggest thing, probably beyond that, is you have your budget consumption tax. That's good. You can sit here to simply pause everything, so that way you can stop paying for that construction goods without ruining your queue, and then resume immediately when it's done. Another thing is money. You pay interest on the money you go below your reserves on, but you also leak money if you're at max. So it's a very fine line. Where you want to be is you're losing money by a tiny bit when you're constructing, but when you pause, you're gaining a ton of money. That's generally the fine line you want to be at. You'd never want to run too positive in the money, but if you go negative, unlike in EU4, you can't restructure your debt fast enough, and there will be a pacing point where you could spiral into bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is, yikes. You thought Mingplosion was bad in EU4, your prestige is gone, so you're definitely dropping a GP rank. Your loan's interest rate go through the roof. So if you still have that problem of losing money, you're screwed. You can't build anything else, which exacerbates the problem even further. And when people come to take advantage of that, you basically fight at half offense and defense, which means if we had that debuff right now, even the crappy armies of Great Qing would stand a threat to us. They would probably have the superior stats at that point, which is insane. So yeah, those are, I guess, the quick tips that I think are extremely useful to people to know, that I think are worth people's time at this point. So that is all for this video. If you like this content, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help the channel and helps the channel with the algorithm. Hopefully, I should be able to get that video out about how the AI mod does its development, because that is going to be a big insight into how this actually should work out for us. Until the next video, I will see you all guys later.